The Ashes of Greystone Hollow, Part 2. The Unraveling Thread. I woke in the middle of the parlor. The candles snuffed, the women gone. Only my mother remained, still bound to me by the red thread, now frayed and brittle like dry grass. She didn't speak. She only stared into the hearth where no fire burned. The silence felt as old as the walls. Outside, the first snow had fallen. We didn't talk about what happened. Not that day, or the ones that followed. My mother moved differently, slower, but more certain. She no longer shook. She began singing again, quiet tunes with no lyrics. She left bundles of pine and crushed lavender beneath the bed. She kept the red thread in a jar beside her pillow. At school, I stopped being called on. Teachers glanced at me and looked away. The other kids whispered, but never to my face. When I tried to ask the librarian about symbols or old rituals, she slid a book toward me without a word. Its spine read only, threadwork. The pages were brittle, written in a language I somehow understood. The drawings matched the carvings beneath our rug. One page was dog-eared. It showed a girl tied by red thread to an older woman. Beneath it, one leads, one carries, one forgets. I began to dream differently. I no longer walked in fields, but through halls that pulsed with damp stone. At their center stood a doorway made of bone and yew branches. Behind it, I could hear voices chanting, but not in warning. They were calling me. Not my name, but me. The part of me buried deeper than bone. One morning, I woke with ash beneath my fingernails. Another day, I found my journal filled with words I hadn't written. They were instructions. Unknot the thread when the snow turns to rain. That is when it begins. I didn't show my mother. I wasn't sure if she'd be proud or afraid. By late January, the snow thawed. Rain drizzled endlessly. Mud sucked at tires. Our power flickered more than it worked. And one Thursday, I noticed. The thread was gone from the jar. The women returned that night. They arrived without sound, their footsteps muffled by soaked earth. They didn't speak. They didn't smile. My mother didn't light candles this time. She only opened the parlor door and waited. They formed a circle again, but not around the trench of pine and salt. This time, around me. I didn't resist. I couldn't. One of the women, eyes blind with cataracts, took my hands. She made the thread, she whispered. You must now unmake it. She placed the silver blade in my palm. It was curved, warm, humming faintly. My mother stood at the center of the room. Arms open, I stepped forward. The blade hovered near the spot on her wrist where the thread had once tied us. I hesitated. You won't kill me, she said. You'll free us both. I drew the blade lightly. No blood came. Instead, a wisp of red thread, thin as spider silk, unwound from her skin. It floated in the air, pulsing. It drifted to my chest and sank inside. The women began to hum again. The house pulsed with heat. My mother collapsed. She slept for 3 days. When she woke, her eyes were her own again, but older. Worn. She looked at me like she didn't know what year it was. What did we do? She whispered. I didn't know how to answer. The house changed after that. The walls breathed louder. Mirrors showed things behind me that weren't there. My reflection aged differently. Sometimes I passed windows and saw myself already standing there. The sound of dripping filled the upstairs hallway, though we had no leaks. And always, in the background, the whisper of thread being pulled through flesh. The women no longer visited. My mother stopped speaking to anyone. One night, I found her in the attic, surrounded by burned photographs and bones wrapped in lace. She didn't see me. She was whispering to someone who wasn't there. It was for her, she said. I made the deal. The thread holds. In February, a letter arrived with no postage. Just our address and a symbol in red wax. Inside, A single sentence. You will forget the knot only after the cutting. That night, I returned to the parlor. The trench of pine was gone, replaced by a circle of iron nails and wax. At its center lay the red thread, now coiled into a knot. My hands moved on their own. I stepped inside. I spoke words I didn't remember learning. Let memory serve until it dissolves. Let blood remember so the mind may rest. The knot burned into ash. The windows shattered inward. I screamed, but it wasn't pain. It was relief. Something inside me snapped, uncoiled, bloomed. I saw her my mother as she had been. A girl alone, cold, desperate to belong. I saw the deals she made, the circles she joined, the thread she wove with her firstborn soul. I saw her cry as the price was explained, and I saw her accept it anyway, and I forgave her. The next morning, she was gone. No body, no note, just a circle of ash in the attic where her shoes remained. I was alone, but not abandoned. The women returned one final time. They stood at the edge of the field, heads bowed. One raised her hand not to call me, but to bless me. The thread has ended, she said. They disappeared into the trees. I never left Greystone Hollow. The house no longer shifts. The mirrors no longer lie. I walk its halls and hear no whispers. But every Thursday, I light a single red candle and place it on the parlor floor, just in case someone needs to remember or to forget, because every thread, no matter how tightly woven, must one day unravel. And when it does, someone must be here to hold the ashes. The end